Hello, and welcome to Healthy for Life, our podcast series. My name is Marie Gorski. I'm a registered dietitian with the YMCA, and today I am joined by Michael Walker, who is an employee of our downtown MX branch. He is also training, getting close to being at the end of being a personal trainer himself. So he is going through extensive coursework to become a trainer. And today, Mike is here to help us talk about exercise and nutrition basics for junior athletes. So we are going to go ahead and jump right in.
Hello.
Thank you, Mike. With some questions for Mike, and then we'll jump to some nutrition topics. So, Mike, tell me, sometimes parents tell me when their child can't exercise because they're not naturally athletic. That whole, my kid doesn't like sports, so they can't do sports. What would you say to these parents? And are organized sports, necessary for kids?
Well, I would say that first we got to define what a kid is. Most people are feeling that a child is this or a child is that, and everyone's like, my child will always be my child.
Mm-hmm.
So to clarify, a child is someone that's under the age of 18. And with that being said, exercise and our youth athletes is totally beneficial to them. There's a huge problem with obesity among children in America. Over 20% of American children are obese.
A big number.
Yeah, and in the U.S., children spend an average of around 7.5 hours a day just in front of a screen. And only about 27% of U.S. children get 60 minutes of exercise a day. So with that being said, many children, adolescents, or young people in general participate in competitive athletics. Structured exercise can help with their health, their fitness, and their athletic success.
Absolutely. So, what are kind of some of these, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, but sometimes people feel like there's limitations to what my kid can't do. Either they have a physical limitation or an intellectual limitation. Are there ways that we can train our kids to be active that don't necessarily have to involve like a group sport or group activity? And maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, the specifics, but what are some kind of examples of ways that our kids can be active that doesn't have to be a sport, but it's still structured, that's giving us some guidelines?
Yeah, a lot of people tend to think that play is enough for kids, and that is not true. A structured program or some sort of exercise routine is truly beneficial to getting kids more active and functioning.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to help most children who are under the age of like 12 per se would be to get them in the gym and just working out and learning the routines and forms and structures to lift it.
Apologize for the pause. We are reconvening. And I probably totally lost your train of thought where you were talking.
No, I got you. It was, we're talking about the children and what would be appropriate for them to exercise with. And I also believe that outside of that age range of being under 12, once you get over 12, there's another crucial part to exercise, and that's when things start to change with children. They start going through puberty.
Mm-hmm.
And puberty is a huge thing for men and women, and our bodies change. There's a drastic difference in our biology and the way that we think. And so just to be a little general, or broaden the
Mhm.
topic, once the child, like a child goes from 12 to 17, um, finding something that they're interested in and that they like to do is crucial when it comes to exercise. Something that they can do outside of working with you, something they can do on their own,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, because
That's
they're
the-
getting old enough where they can make their own decisions about stuff and finding their niche for kind of a longer, healthier life, right?
Yeah.
Do you see a function where like a place where personal trainers can kind of fit with that age
Yeah.
range?
Yeah, personal trainers are able to help many people, a wide range of people. And when it comes to training, children benefit. Again, I fall on this like frequently, but the structured exercise routine helps them to excel in the long run.
Mhm. So do you think, it seems to me like with a trainer kind of is really good at kind of setting those guidelines for safe exercise, right?
Yeah.
Because like when kids are in organized sports, they're kind of in their niche. Like soccer, you're kind of using the same muscles all the time. But for a kid that maybe doesn't participate in organized sports, they still need to know the basics of training safely. So do you think a personal trainer is kind of the right fit for that individual?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
I think so too. All right, we're going to scooch on. So we're kind of building off of that. Do we train kids the same way as we train adults?
No, that's a common myth. And most people tend to think that children are just miniature versions of adults. You hear it all the time, like, oh, they're just little people,
Mhm.
you know, they're going to grow up and be big people. That is true. They will grow up to be big people, but they are not little people. They have their own uh, biological makeups, their own uh, physiological design,
Mhm.
and they have their own emotions as well. So you really cannot use the same training methods or motivational techniques on growing children as you would for an adult.
Mhm.
And on top of that, children have a lower tolerance for the demands of exercise than adults
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good to know the difference because I feel like sometimes, especially when kids are in really competitive sports, I mean, they work hard. So to recognize that there are some limitations to how hard a kid can train and to be like aware of that. Do they need, more rest periods or what kind of does that training look like for younger people?
Yeah, for kids, they definitely need a little more rest. Working out, they can their bodies aren't really built for cooling down and being in the heat.
Mhm.
Temperature can affect them in ways that it wouldn't affect an adult, such as like extreme heats or extreme colds. They got larger body mass, but smaller bodies.
Mhm.
So that also affects the way that they will exercise. They need to be hydrated constantly during exercise, before exercise, after exercise. That's something that
Yeah,
a
well,
lot
we'll
of
get
people
into
don't
that a
really
little
think
bit more,
about.
but yeah, it's definitely a good point. So it's important to recognize that kids don't train the same as adults, or shouldn't, because of the way their body functions, or they're still growing. Is there a point where they could actually do damage to their growth, or is that a myth?
Yeah, typically it is once children go from the child age or stage to going through puberty and their bodies start to change, they aren't able to really have the same motor skill function as they did. So you have to kind of relearn what it is that they can do.
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time people are stuck with this conditioning. So they are set in a way that they would be potentially forever.
Mhm.
And they're deconditioned and conditioned constantly, right? And so conditioning people or deconditioning them from their bad habits into some good habits
Mhm.
can promote a healthier lifestyle.
Cool. All right. Good. So are there any kind of rules of thumb that are just kind of good across the board for any, even junior athletes, adult athletes? I mean, I would suspect some of the general training advice is probably similar for both, but is there anything specific for kids when they're training that they need to be sure they're always aware of and doing for their bodies?
I've worked in high school as a sort of pseudo coach. I was captain of like my wrestling team. I helped with tennis. Trained a few people on dance. And when it came down to was really, as you say, as most people would say, individualization. You kind of have to tailor something to the person as well as tailoring it to what it is that they will be doing, like the job they were doing. So generally speaking, I would say for kids, strength training or resistance training is the way to go, but you aren't necessarily working towards hypertrophy or building muscle.
Mhm.
You want to be building for the technique and the form, which is pretty much the same thing. And
So the muscle kind of comes after the technique, right?
exactly. You want to be warming up before you stretch, or warming up and and stretching
Mhm.
before you train. You want to try to make sure that you're beginning with lighter loads to allow for like appropriate adjustments, and then gradually increase your loads as your strength increases. And you also, this is very important, allow for 1 to 2 full days between your workouts. You only want to be working out about 2 to 3 times a week,
Mhm.
and give your body that time to rest. It's probably the most overlooked factor of fitness, rest. It's the number one way to heal, the only way to truly grow your muscles,
Oh yeah.
and it's crucial for other aspects of life because fitness is not just the end all be all for a healthy life, but it's one of the many spokes to like a wheel
Mhm.
to incorporate in building a better person or just a better lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
So what happened? What would happen? I'm jumping off. I'm throwing a new question out of Mike. So if you overtrain, what happens to your body?
It's taxing,
Yeah.
very taxing. You can be tired all the time. You won't have a lot of energy. There are changes in your body that you wouldn't necessarily foresee because you're on constant go mode and trying to run and rip and do many different things and aren't giving yourself the time to catch up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And reevaluate where you will be going from there.
So would you say that muscles require that rest to be able to grow?
Yeah, they need that rest and they need the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
They need the energy and they need the time to adjust.
Mm-hmm. To learn, because Mike and I were talking off camera or off mic earlier about how muscles work more effectively the way that they were built to work, right?
Yeah.
So, or how they're built to function. So when you flip the script and start something new, it takes longer to adapt. Does that sound right?
Off camera conversation. Yeah. But most people who are new to the gym make gains a lot faster than those who have been in the gym because they are making some neurological changes and going through the motions of lifting can make you you'll see that these people get a lot stronger.
Quick, because their bodies aren't used to it.
Yeah.
So once your body kind of gets used to it, then you have to start something new.
Right.
Okay, so we're diverging, but now Mike gets to question me. So hand it over and we'll get into kind of the nutrition component of fueling. That depends who you're asking. Oh, yes. So we're going to talk a little bit about the nutrition part. So go ahead and lead me with the question.
Okay. Now that we have the fitness basics down, what's the best way to fuel our junior athletes?
All right. So the thing is, when we think about fueling our kids, it's important to consider, we think about macros. So macros are the macronutrients. They're the three kind of essential nutrients that we need to survive: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And protein needs are generally higher for kids than they are for adults. Usually about 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And the slides will be attached to this presentation. Yes, kilograms. You got to do some math. So to determine your weight in kilograms, you divide your weight in pounds by 2.2. So you would get that weight. And then, so say for like 120-pound person, it's about 55 kilograms. Multiply that times 1 to 1.2, you're at 55 to whatever. I don't have my calculator in front of me. So some ways that protein, good sources of protein would be lean meats, tofu, tempeh, which is a fermented soy product, beans, nuts, seed butter, Greek yogurt, cheese, dairy, and non-dairy, nuts and seeds.
It's a whole lot of protein.
It's a lot of protein. Yeah. And, I think as adults, we kind of think we need way more protein than we need, but it's actually kids that do need a higher protein, especially kids that are going to be working hard to help refuel their muscles. Carbohydrates, though, are our main source of energy when we're working out. Not protein. So kids really need a lot of carbs. About 45 to 65% of their total energy needs or total calorie needs should be carbohydrates. So carbohydrates provide you with that immediate fuel. Protein will break down to provide fuel at more extended exercise, but carbs are what you need to get started. And we'll go into the kind of the specifics of the when and how.
They give you that quick energy.
They give you the quick energy, and depending on the carbohydrate. So a simple carbohydrate is one that breaks down a little bit faster. That's going to get metabolized faster, give you that quick energy boost. It's like fruit, juice, cold cereal, granola bar. Complex carbohydrates are going to have more fiber because they haven't been broken down as much as a simple carbohydrate. So that's going to give you a little bit more sustained energy. So things like brown rice, whole grain pasta or bread, quinoa, vegetables, those are all vegetables. Other vegetables, rice. Peas, potatoes, yeah, all these things. So starchy vegetables are kind of what we're looking at there. And fat, kids need fat. We all need fat to survive. And 25 to 30% is what they need, but you want to limit those saturated fats. So saturated fats are what often people refer to as unhealthy fats. So things like bacon, sausage, even coconut oil, which gets a lot of popularity, ice cream, packaged pastries usually have a lot of saturated fats. So some good or unsaturated fats, we think of olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, fish, olives, even dark chocolate has a good source of unsaturated fats.
Ooh, I just started eating avocados.
There you go.
So, Marie, are there any specific times my child should eat, to maximize their training?
There really are, and this is pretty much true for all people who exercise. But you want to get something in before you work out, and the timing of that can be tricky sometimes depending on when the event. If you've got a soccer game at 7 a.m., it can be hard to get in a full meal. But ideally, you want to eat like a full lighter meal 2 to 3 hours before working out. So when I say a full meal, I'm saying a protein, a carb, and a fat. something like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on whole wheat with some raw veggies with ranch or something like that. Now, if you can't make it that early, 30 minutes to an hour before working out, try and get some carbohydrate that's easily digestible with a small amount of protein. So like a yogurt cup with some berries in it, a piece of fruit, like a banana or orange with some nuts. Sometimes people don't tolerate dairy real well right before they work out. So, you know, you could use plant-based alternate, it might be easier to get down. Even if you do a little bit of juice with a spoonful of peanut butter, just something to get a little bit of carb protein, because that carb is what you're going to burn immediately within that first hour of working out. So you got to have fuel for the engine. And I'm going to back up. One question is, sometimes you wonder how many calories a child actually needs in a day. And I just want to mention that I did include a chart in the slides that kind of breaks that down. And this is an average, like Mike mentioned earlier, all of these things that we're talking about today are kind of average recommendations. Definitely each person, each child can have very specific needs depending on how much they're working out, what their body is, shape is. So to kind of
it could change a lot.
get those, really granular things, it's best to talk to a registered dietitian or a physician can help you with that too. So continue on meal timing. So pre-exercise, you want to get a little bit. During exercise, it can be kind of hard to eat while you're working out, right? So, but if it's less than 60 minutes, they probably don't need to consume anything specifically. But if they're working out for more than 60 minutes, they're probably burned through whatever you gave them in that 30 minutes prior. So it's time to add a little bit. So the classic orange wedges at halftime serves a purpose. It is giving you another quick carb fuel to help you work out for the rest of the show. So little group or little fruits, maybe a sports gel, granola bar, something that's it's not gonna weigh them down, but just give them a quick burst of carbohydrate energy. And then after is really a critical time to think about food. So within 15 minutes to an hour of exercise, you want to consume a carbohydrate protein combo. So this is when the body is burned through whatever fuel you've given them before. So they need something to recoup, something to rebuild their muscle stores, give them fuel for their brain to function, some carbohydrates. So something quick and easy, chocolate milk, cheese or crackers or fruit and crackers. A smoothie is another easy one. It's got, a good amount of calories and fat and protein in it. And then within 2 to 3 hours is when we're really going to recharge the system. So you're looking for a full meal here. And, kids' palates are kids' palates. So a pizza and salad is perfectly acceptable. You just want to really make sure that they are getting some healthy choices, some fruits and vegetables, because we want to fuel kids the right way. And because when you're doing exercise, you're creating an oxidative state in your body. So you want those antioxidants to help balance out everything that you've been doing inside your body. So that's where fruits and vegetables come into play. So always do, and for those meals, they should still be pretty carb heavy because that's where the fuel's coming from.
So we spoke about the food. What about hydration for junior athletes?
Yeah.
How much water should my child drink?
Absolutely. I mean, hydration is so imperative. You want to start drinking about an hour before exercise. So about 1 ounce per 10 pounds of body weight. And this is going to sound like a complicated equation, but it's on the slide. But generally, so if you think about a 120-pound kid divided by 10 pounds times 1 ounce of water, that's 12 ounces of water that you want to have them drink before an hour before they work out.
It's like a small cup at Starbucks.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, and And if you think about 6 ounces, so half of that, that's about 6 gulps. So think about 12 gulps of water at the drinking fountain or, the sports bottle. Now, during exercise, you still want them drinking about every 15 to 30 minutes and about 4 to 6 ounces of water. Can it be a challenge when a kid's on a field? They can't always, come off every 15 to 20 minutes, but that's something to shoot for. And then after exercise, you want to go for a minimum of 24 ounces for most people. There is a way to calculate your sweat rates, and that is you kind of do a weight before, a weight after. I don't think that kids need to get that intense unless they are really working out for multiple hours at a time. So this is really for over 2 hours of working out. You may want to consider looking at the sweat rate. However, with the caveat that we don't want kids to be really weight focused or scale focused or scale
it's
dependent.
Something to keep in mind, because that sometimes when people are working out,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see them sweating super hard, or you might notice there's a problem.
Yeah.
This is something to be informed of.
Yeah, because I think some people don't realize how much they sweat and how much fluid loss they have during exercise, and then they don't know how much to drink afterwards to balance. So I do have a link to be able to determine what the sweat rate is. But again, we don't want kids this is a time in their lives where kids can get very dependent on scales, and they can start developing some disordered eating patterns. And that's actually a topic we're going to talk about next month in May. But just to kind of don't let your kid be crazy about the scale. It's not really good for anybody, but especially at kids when they're so vulnerable. Just a general daily fluid needs, it's approximately half your body weight. So in fluid ounces. So again, a 120-pound kid divided by 2 is 60. So that's about 60 ounces. So that's just your baseline. So then you add in the extra fluids depending on how much working out they're doing. Some early signs of dehydration, and I'm sure, Mike, you've seen this in some of your clients, they get fatigued, decreased performance, nausea, headaches, irritability, thirst, they're thirsty. Advanced signs of dehydration, you have dark urine, dry lips, decreased reaction time. And if in extreme cases, if you see your kid disoriented or their skin's getting pale, that could indicate a medical emergency. And you need to get them to a hospital. Yeah, right away.
Life alert.
Yeah. So we do not want our kids or anyone else to get to that point. Yes, right. So let's do a couple myth busters to round out this little podcast. So I've heard only fit people can exercise.
Oh,
true? False? True? False?
False.
Okay, false. Why?
Anyone can exercise. It is a great benefit to try or to start getting into your fitness and getting into your nutrition. As I said earlier, these are all, a healthy lifestyle is a multifaceted thing. And adding these few pieces together can really start you on the stairs or the stairway to a overall healthy life.
Nice.
But in regards to fit people and exercising, to get a little more specific, to me, a lot of people tend to think that only the athletic types work out. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Anybody can work out. And the benefits to working out go into people with diabetes, people with spinal cord injuries, people with, asthma, people just, as I said, a broad, anybody.
Anybody
really
can do it.
Yeah.
There is no limit. There's always ways to adapt, right?
Yes. And going and talking with your physician, your dietitians, your nutritionist, talking with a personal trainer, people at your local gyms. It's a great place to start.
And the Y has all of those things, which is awesome.
Yes, we do.
All right, how about another Mythbuster?
All right. Here's one. Kids need to eat meat to build strength.
Myth. Kids can be vegetarians and even vegan and get enough protein to build, gosh, tripping over my words, to build strength.
You're telling me that I can eat just vegetables and still build my strength?
You can build muscles with vegetables. It is true. Now, you probably need to eat a little bit more because the protein content is generally lower in vegetables than it is in animals.
But there's protein in vegetables.
There's actually protein in like everything. Yeah. We just don't realize it. So yes, you can. I would say if you do have an athlete who is following a plant-based diet, this is a perfect time to reach out to a dietitian because they do need some guidance. They need specialized meal planning to make sure they're getting all the appropriate amino acids for growth, since this is a very developmental time of their lives. So it is possible, but reach out to the professional. So do you think that kids have to train strong to be strong?
No, of course not. We brushed over this a little bit earlier, but the factors that determine strength in kids is the neurological factor. When you're training children, you're not going for heavy lifting or even hypertrophy. You're going for the neurological factor. You're going for the form. You're going for the technique, and you're building on that to. And sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
That determines the strength.
The strength. Awesome. Well, we are running out of time today, but I want to thank Mike for joining me today. He's been an awesome resource, and we will have links in the slideshow on ways to contact our personal trainers or a registered dietitian like myself to help you and your kids perform at their best.
Thanks for having
me.
Yeah,
I appreciate you being here, Mike. It's been awesome. So thank you, and look forward to working together again in the future. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.